Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome to Capitol Views. And a special welcome today to Kara Moriarty, the Executive Director of the Alaska Oil and Gas Association. So thanks for joining us, Kara.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation, Tim.
Kara, you represent all of the oil and gas operators in the state, and I guess things are pretty busy right now. Maybe you could tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I do. I work for the Alaska Oil and Gas Association, commonly referred to as AOGA, and we're a professional trade association that advocates on behalf of the entire industry to advocate for the long-term viability. And right now, things in the industry are really exciting. We are a bright spot in Alaska's economy right now. It feels really good to be that way. We have a lot of spending on the North Slope going on in existing fields. And then obviously with the two big projects that have been approved in the last few years. So it's exciting.
Kara, maybe you could, I mean, to me, AOGA seems like a classic trade association representing a whole lot of different companies. And maybe you could talk about what it is, how it works, who some of the members are, and
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so as I said, we're a professional trade association, and we represent the majority of companies exploring, producing, refining, and transporting oil and gas in Alaska. So our membership includes some of the largest companies in the entire world, like ExxonMobil, and other major oil and gas companies like ConocoPhillips, and Hillcorp obviously is a big company in Alaska. But then we also represent smaller companies, new companies like Santos, very small companies like Glacier, companies that are Alaska owned like Hex Fury, as well as our in-state refineries, one of which is a wholly owned subsidiary of ASRC with Petrostar. So yeah, it's a broad group. And so we focus on those issues that we're aligned on, which is about 95% of issues facing the oil and gas industry. Our members are competitors, so sometimes we're not aligned on every single issue, but on the major policy issues facing Alaska and how we're an integral part of Alaska's economy, we're always completely aligned on.
Kara, one of the things that a trade association also does is it works on regulatory issues. And I'm reminded that the agencies like to have federal and state regulatory agencies like to have one place they can go and they can talk to the entire industry or whatever it is, the trucking industry or the mining industry. And I guess maybe you could just mention a few of the regulatory issues that you're involved in where you have a chance to bring everybody together and present a common front to the agencies.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of work that never sees the light of the day, if you will. And they can range from local issues, whether they be related to any local government that we operate in, as well as state and federal agencies. So right now we've had a lot of work and attention on the federal side with the recent regulation package that was passed under the Biden administration dealing with how to manage the National Petroleum Reserve Alaska into the future. That regulation package was extremely problematic and has been challenged in court by 5 different entities. And AOGA actually joined in support of the state's lawsuit against that regulation package. And so we do things like that where we have one common position, as you mentioned, pushing back on a regulation. And sometimes we support regulations because it helps more efficient management of the entire industry. So we work with every state and federal agency that has jurisdiction over the oil and gas industry, ranging from the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Alaska Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, DNR, DOR, pick your acronym, if you will. EPA, with the EPA, we've been working on a set of regulations for small remote incinerators for almost 15 years now. So sometimes these regulation changes don't happen overnight, and then sometimes they happen very quick, like the MPRA, and then you find yourself in litigation in addition to working with the agencies.
Kari, in the case of the NPRA regulations, I remember when those were put into effect, how long were they in development? Was it fairly quick
It was a very quick
or
turnaround, and that was part of the problem that the Bureau of Land Management didn't even follow their own internal guidance for tribal consultation and in consultation with the local residents. And I think that's probably why the first entity that challenged those regulations was the voice of the Arctic Inupiat. And so speaking for a coalition of the residents of the North Slope, because as I said, the BLM didn't even follow their own rules. We also believe that the regulation changes congressional intent of how MPRA should be managed and the purpose of the National Petroleum Reserve. So we were excited and encouraged to see that that's part of this new administration's effort to overturn that. And so we'll be working with our congressional delegation and the new folks as they get into place in these agencies and the governor's office in making sure that that happens.
well, just by way of background, the NPRA was created really back in 1923 by
Mhm.
former President Harding, and it was created as a petroleum reserve. Interestingly enough, there were
Right.
federal geologists that were up there walking around those days, and they found geology that looked they found oil seeps. And so they made a recommendation to the president to create 23 million acres set aside. But but there was never any oil discovered for many, many years until recently when companies began finding oil.
Yeah.
So, and right now, we have Willow, for example, as the most dramatic example of a new discovery in the NPRA.
Yeah, and we've had some production now in MPRA and Greater Moose's Tooth. So there is some small production in the MPRA, but the Willow discovery, obviously is a massive project. Thousands of construction workers. We'll see. They'll probably have their busiest construction season in 2025 and this year, with production coming online in 2029. And that, coupled with the PICA project, coupled with the infield development that we're seeing in Alpine and Kaparic, and the good old Prudhoe Bay keeps chugging along. We are forecasted to be over 600,000 barrels a day for the first time in 20 years by 2031, 2032. So it is definitely a different trajectory that we've seen. And, having stable fiscal and regulatory policies are really important. You asked about regulations. Most of our challenges on regulation have been on the federal side. And so, the state has had a very stable fiscal and regulatory environment that makes it attractive for capital.
But that's good, and hopefully, Willow is a very good accomplishment. I hope there's going to be more Willows
Yeah,
and
we
and
do
more.
too. And I think, Santos has some really encouraging exploration results from the Quokka unit, which is right underneath where the PICA unit is. And then of course we know that there's other opportunities within MPRA, and we know there's other opportunities to the east of Prudhoe. And, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that we have a lot of resources left in Alaska. And this administration, the Trump administration, believes that there's a future for oil and gas to continue to meet the world's demand for decades to come. And so we're excited about that. And we are happy and proud to be part of Alaska's economy.
Well, well, that's good for all of us. It's good for Alaska, and thank you very much for joining us, Kara.
You're welcome. Thank you
Yep.
for the invitation.
Yeah. Thank you. This is Tim Bradner with the Capital Views, and thanks for joining us.